Yeah, they probably are sick of it right now. I mean, finally, I think the leaking of this new photo, because that's all we've got at the moment, is helpful to the Prime Minister, which may sound strange, but I think, we're all waiting for this Sue Gray report to come out, which allegedly contains, a warts and all description of what went on, as you said. But it probably won't contain anything more than the picture basically demonstrates he was having, toasting a something going on with a load of wine bottles around him, and that's probably the worst that's going to happen. That's the worst sort of image, I guess you could imagine. And call me cynical, I might imagine that was leaked deliberately so that when the Sue Gray report comes out, the only really story there is, a news story to take forward, is probably who else was around, and you're pointing then at civil servants, because we already know the PM has had a drink and been fined, and we're kind of moving on from it. So I think it's possibly even helpful for him.
That's interesting. So you consider that potentially this wasn't a leak that came from someone opposed to the Prime Minister, it wasn't a leak that came from Dominic Cummings, but potentially a leak from someone supporting the Prime Minister?
I've got no evidence for that, but all I'm saying is I think the landing of a Sue Gray report, how long have we been waiting for this? It must be 2 or 3 months or something ridiculous. So there's a huge amount of speculation around it. And it was alleged that there are lots and lots of photos in there. So that would have been the killer photo if you saw that in the Sue Gray report. We've waited 3 months for it, and then here finally is this evidence of this, loads of booze on a table and him raising a glass. That's been released before it to spike the landing of that report, I think. I've no evidence for that it's been deliberate, but if it has, then good on them. If it hasn't, then if they were trying to release it to make this Prime Minister look bad, it's probably backfired, because it's just released it's the story we're talking about right now. We've been talking about it since yesterday. So the Sue Gray report probably won't add any more to that, and we'll start pointing at other people other than the Prime Minister, I think.
And of course, most people will have made up their minds about this whole situation about 6 months ago. I wonder how much more any new revelation or any context or any photographic evidence of a story that we already knew, how any of this actually changes anyone's mind.
Well, of course, yeah, and there are two things on that. The first is, and you just mentioned that a moment ago, that is there a case for misleading Parliament finally on publication of this photo? And the answer to that, as I think you're alluding to, is probably no, because the Johnson line at the time was, "I have been assured that no rules were broken." So if he believes that he's not breaking any rules, then that's probably admissible, permissible under the law, I would think. I'm not a lawyer, obviously, but that seems logical to me. And as you rightly say, everyone's sick of it. But the second thing is the people that should be really laying into him right now, the Labour Party, but of course their own leader is under investigation by the police for drinking a curry. So I just don't think this story will go anywhere near the kind of scale that means a resignation, for example.